Hi guys, in this video I'm going to be revealing why so many sufferers struggle with social anxiety for years and years without ever finding a solution to their problems. And stick around to the end of this video because I'm going to be revealing a completely new method which I devised to overcome my own social anxiety after decades of struggle, and which you can use to overcome your problems too. But before we go any further, for those of you that are new to the channel, let me introduce myself. My name's Ed Barton and I'm a full-time professional anxiety coach, and I struggled for decades with crippling social anxiety. It started off very early in my life, almost as far back as I can remember, and it continued right up until the age of 32 when I took massive action to overcome it. During those years, I was crippled at times with my anxiety. I couldn't leave the house. At 27 years old, I had to pay a psychiatrist to even take me outside. He would walk me around town and take me into a supermarket because I was too scared to even do those things. And from there, I was able to go on, join Toastmasters, do public speaking, compete in the British Nationals Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu Championships, travel the world, set up my own business, do many, many things that I never imagined I would be able to do. And it's all through overcoming social anxiety. There are a number of problems around social anxiety and its treatment which make it a difficult issue to deal with. And the first problem is the actual nature of the beast itself, the nature of social anxiety disorder. It's very complex. I believe it goes to the very root of who you are. It affects every area of your life. So that means it's not only deep, but it's also wide. It's pervasive and it's very profound. In my experience of spending decades in trying to figure this problem out and find my way out of the maze, I put a lot of thought into this, and I realized that it's not a social issue. You're not scared of other people. You're actually scared of yourself. You're scared that maybe you're not enough, that somehow you're deficient, that somehow you'll be rejected, that there's something lacking within you. So it's not a social issue. It's a self issue. And it's very complicated. And the problem is, oftentimes as well, it's characterized by setbacks. So in my own life, there were times when I really felt I'd overcome it, and then I felt myself come crashing back down after a public humiliation or some kind of a meltdown in a lecture theatre or something that had happened at university. And I'd be there with my head in my hands thinking, how can this have happened? I had gone all the way to the top of the mountain and now I've crashed right back down. And that happened several times. And this is a characteristic of the disorder. It often has lots of setbacks. It's complicated. It goes to the root of who you are. Another problem with social anxiety is the way that it's currently misunderstood. And it's not only misunderstood by those that treat it or try to treat it, it's misunderstood by sufferers themselves. And I know because I was one, and I was a sufferer from going back very, very early in my life, as early as I can remember almost. When the camera was pulled out at playgroup to take a picture of me, I would get self-conscious and awkward. And that continued all the way up through my life. And it's misunderstood. You don't really know what's going on with yourself when you have this problem. And you think, oh, there must be some quick hack that I can do. There must be something that I've seen on TikTok. Like maybe if I just pinch myself here or pull my earlobe or put lemon juice in some water, or I take magnesium, or I take this supplement, that will cure it. I see this with so many people, and it is just barking so far up the wrong tree. It's very hard for me to even fathom, having been through the whole journey myself. It's not some quick hack, right? It's probably formed in your childhood around your whole self-concept. It goes, as I said, to the core of who you are. You have no inner core of reassurance. Therefore, you experience panic and anxiety, and it can be health anxiety as well, all kinds of OCD. It can be performance anxiety. I had all of these, and it's because there is not that inner sense of security and safety and wellness, because it was not instilled in me as a child. I had parents that I was scared of, and I grew up in a volatile situation. And most of the people that I coach are from a similar kind of background. So there's this nondescript panic inside of ourselves, and it will attach to anything, whether we're on a plane, whether we're on the underground and we're scared of throwing up, or whether we look at something on our skin and we think it's going to be a cancerous mole. The mind is looking for something to obsess about. It doesn't matter really whether it's health anxiety or social anxiety, because there's this deep panic. It's like a very young part of ourselves, which is like an insecure baby and is just crying out for some soothing and some reassurance. And we don't have that as adults with social anxiety. So Sufferers don't understand the problem. They think they can just get around it with some quick hack or some quick fix, some silver bullet. I did this. I went down to Peru and drank ayahuasca. I did acupuncture. I had all kinds of things done to me, and I went and did all kinds of things. There was all kinds of things that I did because I misunderstood the problem. It was a me problem, my whole personality, my whole self-confidence, my whole inner being, my whole self-love, my whole self-concept. It's not something you're just going to fix with a quick bedtime meditation track from YouTube or something like that. It's also massively misunderstood by the people that treat it. You know, experts, they haven't had the problem. Psychiatrists, therapists, and GPs, healthcare practitioners, they don't really understand the problem. And because they don't understand it, they make you feel very silly oftentimes when you go to tell them about your problems. They will minimize it. I spoke to many therapists, people on the NHS in the UK, which is the National Health Service. I'd phone up a helpline and she would repeat back my problems to me. Oh, you're scared of texting someone. Oh, you overanalyze messages on social media. Right, well, try this, yeah. And repeated it back to me as if I was some kind of absolute moron. Because if you haven't had the experience, then it's very hard for them to really understand the terror and the struggle that we go through as social anxiety sufferers. So it's not just the sufferers themselves that misunderstand the problem, it's also the people that are meant to be giving out advice. And it's treated in a very sterile, formulaic way. Just try this medication, that should do it. It's like, no, it does not go anywhere deep enough, does not go anywhere far enough. And I'm kind of on a crusade for this because I feel like I'm one of the few people out there that seems to fully comprehend the depth of the problem. And it's not a, you know, social anxiety disorder is a term. The point is you haven't developed fully, properly in your psycho-emotional development, and you're scared, you're ashamed of yourself, there's toxic shame, your outlook on the world is completely skewed, you're panicked, you've got no reassurance, you need to ask everybody for advice. Did I say the right thing? Do you think this email is okay? Should I apply for this job? That was me. You know, I couldn't even choose food off a menu without thinking like, oh, have I done the right thing? Can someone please qualify my decision here? I need some reassurance. Like, I was just empty inside, you know, I was completely empty. I had no inner core of self-assurance. And that's the problem when you have social anxiety. And as I say, social anxiety is a label. So another big problem with social anxiety is its current treatment. As I said, it's basically woefully ineffective, which is why you're watching this and you haven't overcome social anxiety, why I wasn't able to overcome social anxiety, even with decades of talk therapy, 2 types of anti-anxiety medication, beta blocker and SSRI, it didn't work. So the current formula is basically CBT or some kind of talk therapy plus medication, and that has a success rate of around 50%, which I think is pretty poor. If you had breast cancer or a broken leg and you went to the doctor and they were like, yeah, well, we've got this treatment method, it's half likely to work. You get about a 50% outcome. I wouldn't be very happy with that at all. And as I said, it's because these are band-aid solutions. A GP does not have the time to get to the root of your problem and find out that you were dominated by a terrifying mother figure. So you grew up scared of women, you became a little nice guy, you became a people pleaser, and then you never had any assertiveness, you lacked self-esteem, you lacked backbone, and then you just became scared and passive in society, right? The GP does not have time to get into that with you or that depth of the problem. So what they do is they just write out the prescription, they follow the current formula, yes, have a 6-week CBT course, take your medication and get out the way because there's people with real problems that I need to look at, people with cancer and these kind of things. So this does not work. It's superficial and it's a band-aid solution. As I said, the problem is much deeper. The problem is your whole outlook, especially your view on reality, your cognitive distortions, your explanatory style, definitely your level of self-esteem, all of these things. And a GP, in the decades that I was struggling with it, I was never ever once asked about this. I literally went into the office and he was like, you got anxiety, take some meds and, you know, on your way and good luck. I'm not blaming healthcare professionals for this. They are completely squeezed and squashed and under pressure. They don't have time to get to the root of your problem. and they just don't have the bandwidth or the capacity to really care that much. And to them, it seems quite trivial. From my experience, people minimized my problems. They did not understand how much it was crippling me, because, as I said, it's not just social anxiety. It's like I lacked confidence to do anything. It was affecting every single area of my life. I couldn't have sex. I couldn't go dating. I couldn't drive my car. I couldn't walk into a shop. I couldn't walk down the street. I had to hire a psychiatrist to take me out into society and give me instructions of how to move my arms. So if that isn't crippling, then I don't know what is. I was literally crippled by my social anxiety. The next problem with social anxiety and why you're not overcoming it is because the people that are talking about it, and they're either so-called experts who've had no first-hand experience of it, do not understand the pervasiveness of the problem, the depth of the problem, how profound it is, or it's celebrities and social media influencers, new people who have jumped on this bandwagon. I started struggling with social anxiety around 4 years old, and in like 1985, before it ever became trendy to have social anxiety. And I see people online who are like, yeah, you know, I got nervous at the Oscars ceremony. I've got social anxieties. No, if you've got social anxiety, there's no way you would be able to act, no way you'd be able to go to the Oscars ceremony. So it's like when I see celebrities pouring their heart out, or big social media influencers talking about social anxiety just because it's become a trendy topic, I find that very infuriating, because the social anxiety that I had, and most likely that you had if you're watching this, is a sense of deep self-loathing, so that you could never do any of that stuff. You're not even a part of mainstream society because you dare not participate. So we're talking about something completely different. I think it's kind of infuriating that it's been co-opted now on TikTok and so on as a trendy thing to talk about. Another big reason people don't succeed in overcoming social anxiety is because too much of the approach is theoretical. I spent decades sitting in a comfy chair in a therapist's office, rehashing trauma from my childhood, negative events from my family history, and going over and over and over them, talking them over, ingraining them deeper and deeper into my mind, reliving all those negative experiences. And there is not enough focus on actual practical application. And there is this term exposure therapy, right? But I think this is also a misnomer, because all of life is exposure therapy. You're just learning. What you have to do with social anxiety is you reprogram your beliefs, and then you go and apply them and test them in reality, and you relearn. So when you take a maths test, you suck on the first maths test, but then you try more and you grow in confidence and they go better and better, and it becomes easier and easier. It's same driving a car, riding a bike, going swimming for the first time. But we don't say, oh, I'm going to do swimming exposure therapy. I'm going to do driving my car exposure therapy, or maths test exposure therapy. This is just the same thing. It's relearning, rewiring your brain. So you've got to recognize your faulty beliefs, start instilling new, more positive, rational outlooks and paradigms and worldviews and thinking patterns, and then go and practice it and relearn it. And we can call that exposure therapy if you want, but it's rewiring your brain. Everything in life is exposure therapy. And what I find very sad about this situation is that as a sufferer, you're given a very limited range of options, like CBT, talk therapy, or meds, basically. And if that doesn't work for you, then you just resign yourself to a life sitting indoors. And I see people on forums, I get comments on this channel, people who are 30 years old and below, saying, what's the point? I've given up, I've tried everything, it doesn't work. Yeah, because you haven't tried the right stuff, and you haven't had the right information or the right paradigm and view on this, which is that it's deep and you've got to get into it on a deep level, and you've got to root out all that old nonsense that's going on in your head, and you have to instill new positive software, and you have to run that software in experiments and tests and get new feedback and new data and rewire your brain. So what happens when people do just exhaust these limited options? You do what I do. You know, you spend an absolute ton of money because you're flying off down to Peru to the Amazon rainforest to drink ayahuasca with shamans, or you're having hypnotherapy or acupuncture or massage, anything I could do to try and get some relaxation and some respite from the anxiety. You end up very disillusioned and disheartened. You are completely despondent because you think you've done everything you can. You also run a risk to your health taking medications which have side effects, all kinds of erectile dysfunction and sweating and strange things going on with your brain. And then there's always the chance that you relapse back to an earlier state, so you just end up out of pocket, depressed, disillusioned, and that's when I get messages and emails from people saying, well, you know, what's the point? I'm 30, I might as well just throw it all in. And that is just like completely wrong. But it's not all doom and gloom. Having told you all the problems with social anxiety, the problems with the current approaches to it and the way it's misunderstood, I'm going to share with you what I figured out through decades of my own personal struggle, trial and error. And as I said, I had social anxiety about as bad as you can imagine. I had to pay a psychiatrist to walk me down the street. He used to have to take me to a supermarket because I was too scared to go into a shop. I was 27 years old and I was basically crippled with anxiety and couldn't do anything. I had a mother who was crippled with anxiety. I had a brother who died of a drugs overdose when he was 26 because of his problems with anxiety. So don't think that this is just something that I just glibly made up off the top of my head before I turned this camera on. This is something that actually came through decades of struggle. It's a process which organically took place in my recovery, and it got me out of social anxiety, and it's what I share with my clients now. First of all, the basis of all of this is exercise. You have to exercise. You have to change your body, get in good shape, get a physique that you're proud of, feel good, feel strong, look good, feel great. You've got all these endorphins flowing. I just did a nice 90-minute workout this morning, shoulders and arms. I feel great. Blood circulation is flowing. Before this, I used to sit around, smoke, drink, masturbate, take drugs, do nothing, watch TV, procrastinate, just feel like a sluggish piece of crap. Now I get up at 6 a.m. and go to the gym, feel good. Exercise, right? Let's do this. You've got to get this in as your baseline. This is your absolute foundation. So you feel good. Your hormones are boosted, you've got more testosterone flowing, you just feel good and you look good. People start to notice like, wow, this guy's looking a bit jacked. I give him respect. You feel much more confident in yourself. This naturally leads on to diet. These two go hand in hand. 70% of your gains in the gym are from diet. So you're not going to go and work out and then not eat properly, right? It's just naturally a behavioral sequence, the mind, the human brain, the way it works. Once it's invested here, then it wants to see some payback here. It wants to invest here too. You don't go out for a 10K run and then think, oh, I could really murder a coffee and a burger or some crap like that. You normally want coconut water and a salad or something fresh and revitalizing, that kind of food. They go together hand in hand. So exercise, then your diet naturally falls in behind that. You get on point. The only reason you eat KFC and cookies and drink Coca-Cola and all that crap is when you're lying around on the sofa and you're just depressed, because those things are drugs, they're not food. KFC and all these things, they're designed to just spike your dopamine. It's not even real food, it's drug food. So you only have that as an emotional need. And when you're feeling good and feeling strong, you don't have that. You don't have inflammation in the body, which makes you crave that stuff. You don't get on this addictive cycle of refined sugars and carbs. You start eating whole foods and working out and you feel great and you eat good stuff. Green foods, antioxidant foods, beetroot, kale, steak, whatever it is, you feel good and you start eating this good, clean food. Once you've got your diet locked in, you've done these two steps, you've been exercising, you had a good meal, naturally you fall asleep well. Go to bed tired. Not enough people go to bed tired. We have this epidemic of insomnia and anxiety and all these things in our society because people are overstimulated. They sit up late, they're drinking coffee, they're whacking off on the internet, they're pumping their brain and their eyes full of blue light, they're stuck in sympathetic overdrive, their whole nervous system is completely dysregulated and out of balance. And no one's doing any physical exercise. Like my granddad used to plow the earth with a Shire horse. He'd be up at 5 a.m., go out all day, farm, come home. When he went to bed, his head just hit the pillow and he was out. Our ancestors didn't worry about insomnia because they were physically tired. Now we just do everything with our brains. We're sitting up here in the office with all our thoughts stuck in our head. We're just up in our head, worrying about our anxiety, worrying about work tomorrow, worrying about that staff meeting, try to sleep, can't sleep. Wear yourself out with some heavy lifts and some good cardio, and then the sleep comes in with that as well. The next foundational step of this is to rebalance your central nervous system. As I said, the whole world is basically stuck in sympathetic overdrive. Unless you're in a traditional society like the Maasai or something like that, then most people are stuck in sympathetic overdrive because they're overstimulated with social media, with blue light, with content online, with caffeine, with sugar, with refined carbs. Too much stimulating crisis news, too much anxiety generally in the world. So they're stuck breathing is poor, posture is poor. So in this stage, we bring that back to baseline. We work on our posture. I spent 3.5 years in Japan in a monastery working on my posture, working on my breathing, working on my meditation. You get all of this aligned. All of this comes together: the breath, the body, and the mind, the posture, the breathing, and the thoughts. So we rebalance our central nervous system. Next up, this is the cognitive reprogramming part of things. And you might be thinking, why on earth have I got to do all this stuff? Like, my doctor said I could just do 6 weeks of CBT, take some meds, and then I'll be fine. Well, that's because my philosophy on dealing with social anxiety is that it is a whole life problem. It's part of a wider dysfunctional lifestyle. I've never come across a client or a sufferer who has everything in their life dialed in, but they have social anxiety. I believe it's almost impossible for social anxiety to exist in such a situation. It does not exist in a vacuum. It usually exists as part of a lifestyle where there's a lot of internet porn, not going out into society, not getting social connection, poor diet, lack of exercise. So we get all of these things in place. This is why I'm the only person that I know that actually teaches something which goes this far, which encapsulates the whole problem. So this is to get us to baseline. This is just to get us to zero. This is to get us to where our ancestors would have normally been, just their normal state of mind, their normal autonomic regulated level of just being healthily at ground zero. Now we want to start doing the reprogramming of the mind. So first of all, we recognize where we're at. We recognize what our faulty beliefs are. We recognize what we're saying to ourselves, how we talk about ourselves. Are we a friend to ourselves? Do we advocate for ourselves? Do we sabotage ourselves? Are we criticizing ourselves? We look at all this stuff: internal beliefs, core beliefs, cognitive distortions, your level of self-esteem, all these things. So you want to recognize that and see, oh wow, I didn't even realize, like, on a daily basis, I'm just calling myself an idiot 50, 60, 70 times a day. Right, that needs to stop. So then we start to look at the reconditioning. We start to look at new positive thought patterns, optimism, gratitude, all of these kind of things, a more rational, scientific objective on life. Stop being so emotional. Stop taking every little look and every little setback as an emotional injury. We start looking at it in very pragmatic, rational terms, like a scientist. Developed a growth mindset, an experimental mindset, a stoic mindset. So we start developing this new, different paradigm, way of looking at the world, new beliefs, inner beliefs, core beliefs, a different way of talking to ourselves. We cultivate what they call in India the friend within, in the yogic tradition. So this is, you have your best friend inside you. You are your best friend. You're a team of one that can go anywhere in the world with that inner confidence because you've got that self-assurance and feel calm and solid and relaxed. Then we look at the rewiring. We go out and we apply this. We take our new beliefs out into the playground of society. We go and compliment people. We high-five people. We give random strangers a fist bump. We see what happens. We push on the walls that we've been so scared of. We push on the prison doors. And then we find that they're actually made of polystyrene. They're not made of metal at all. And all this time we thought we were sitting locked in a prison cell, but it was actually just a bit of flimsy stage furniture. It was just a stage prop. And if we pushed on it at any time, we would realize that person who looks so scary is actually their own scared little person. And although they look so intimidating, when we say, hey, good morning, their face cracks from this very mean self-defensive posture into a big smile, and then we're amazed. This is a whole new paradigm shift, and then our brain starts to rewire. We're like, wow, everyone's walking around in this world looking so standoffish and intimidating, but they're scared. I'm scared and they're scared. And then we don't talk. But then if I make the effort to reach out to them, it lights them up and their face changes and it lights me up because I'm a social primate and I am actually evolved to have this contact. And that's why I get a flood of oxytocin and feel-good neurotransmitters when I make contact with people, because we are living such a warped version of reality right now. We're social primates who don't socialize. No wonder depression is off the charts. No wonder anxiety and social anxiety is off the charts. No wonder Gen Z is heading for the biggest mental health epidemic in recent years. The whole way we're living is completely warped and distorted. So we have to do this social anxiety training. It is a form of social activism. We have to do it for ourselves and for the world to try and reverse this trend that we're in at the moment, where we're all heading towards greater isolation, a bigger loneliness epidemic, and more depression and anxiety. And then once you've done these stages, you're no longer in a place of scarcity and pain and depression. You're no longer just trying to survive. You're now looking at what else I can do. What else can I offer to the world? How else can I live and fully actualize? And this is the self-actualization phase of the structure and of the journey. And it's about thriving, not just surviving. And this is where we start thinking about your passion, your purpose in life, your vision for the future, lifestyle design. Are you going to give up your job and move abroad? Are you going to live a life of service? Do you want to become a Buddhist monk in Japan like I did? Do you want to give back to people through a YouTube channel like I'm trying to do here? Do you want to connect with people? Do you want to quit your current job and share your struggles about social anxiety and trying to help others going through the problems that you've been through? What is it you want for your life? Do you want to upgrade your friendships? Do you want to start dating? You probably are sexually frustrated if you've had social anxiety. You haven't had enough sexual experience. Go and get out there, form new relationships, upgrade your friend circle. Now you're feeling so expansive and positive. You're ready to let go of those old toxic friends that used to pull you down and keep you stuck in anxiety and used to reinforce your negative beliefs. Now you're ready to start going to Toastmasters, to start going to entrepreneurial events, to go into networking events and meeting people who are on the same new positive wavelength as you, and you start meeting new friends. That's what happened to me. It completely upgraded my whole friend circle. Growing up, all my friends were negative, depressive, pessimistic drug takers who used to tell me all kinds of terrible things about myself, make little comments behind my back, reinforce my paranoia, make sideways glances when I was talking and be snickering behind their hands, making me more self-conscious and more paranoid. Yeah, well, I got rid of all those people and I got a brand new friend circle and I upgraded every area of my life. I went out and I started using dating apps and meeting people and having sex. All these things which I wasn't able to do when I was stuck in this phase of the journey. So this is all about becoming the person that you really can be without the shackles of social anxiety. I always felt like I was in a boxing match with one hand tied behind my back, and if only I could get that hand free, then I could actually get into the fight. Well, that's what happens. You get this shit taken care of, you get your mind freed up, you get a rational, sensible, helpful, positive view on the world, you become a positive person, and then now you just start leveling up, and it's just an upward cycle from there. So that's why you haven't been able to overcome social anxiety. Try this out. This will help you overcome social anxiety. If you want more information on these topics, check out the videos here and here on the channel, and I'll see you in the next video.